Powersports Distro. Today we're going to go through the assembly of the SSR 125 semi-automatic, which is identical to the SSR 125 manual. We're going to go through each process in great detail, very slowly, so everyone understands exactly how they're put together in a very easy format. Okay, we're ready to go ahead and start with taking the box off. Again, the assembly for this 125 semi-automatic SSR is the exact same as the SSR 125 manual pit bike. So let's go ahead and take the box off. All I've got is a box cutter, razor blade, these come really well packaged from SSR. It avoids a lot of damage. We don't have very many damage complaints. As you can see, take a look in the box. You can see how well this comes. You can see the metal frame around it, how sturdy this bike is in here. You got this special little brown box here, and this holds your important documents like your manufacturer of origin paper and such that actually has your VIN number on it and says that you own the bike. So if you want to register it, the paperwork's in here. We're going to go through all that, but your manual, your paperwork's in this box here. But this is how secure the bike's actually going to come. Comes really nice. So we'll go ahead and take the rest of the bike off, or rest of the box off. Nothing to it. This cardboard. Gonna rip it around down, just there for protection so nothing gets scratched up. We're gonna take off this box. Got some important documents and stuff in there, and we don't want to mess it up or lose anything, so we're gonna set it aside until we need it.
Please visit PowersportsDistro.com to see our large selection of pit bikes, dirt bikes, go-karts, ATVs, and scooters.
Okay, we're just going to take a quick look at this box. The important items come in it, so we're just going to take a quick look in it. Inside here you're going to find manual. You're going to find your manufacturer of origin paper, which has your VIN number, says you own the bike. And there's other items in here, but these are for the assembly, and we're going to go through each of the assembly steps here in a moment. But, I mean, things like the gas cap, and other parts for the assembly. We're going to go through all this in a moment, though, but I just want to let you know what kind of items were inside this box, you know. Manufacturer origin is the most important paper, and then of course your owner's manual. But we'll go through all the assembly in just a moment now. Okay, the next step is to dismantle the steel cage that the pit bike comes in. You can see this is a very sturdy cage, and this prevents it from being damaged during shipping. SSR actually thought very well in depth about how to protect their items, and we actually had very low damage claims due to this great structure. So what we need is a Phillips screwdriver and our 10mm socket, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen up all these bolts and nuts. We do not need to keep them. We're never going to use them again. They're just junk to hold together this frame. So let's go ahead and start. Just put the Phillips in there. Got our 10mm on the back side, and we're just going through. We're going to loosen up every single one. Just all we're doing is we're dismantling what SSR put together to protect the product during shipping. That's all. Again, that's a 10mm and just a Phillips screwdriver. Right now I'm just loosening them up one by one. It's actually a pretty awesome design that SSR came out with. And of course, if you guys have questions on tatas or coasters, we have assembly videos of those online too. We're putting detailed videos of all the products that we sell online. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come to PowersportsDistro.com. Shoot us an email. It's info@PowersportsDistro.com. We'll get right back with you and help you out with whatever problems you're having. So we'll go ahead and we'll loosen up every single one of these. Okay, we've loosened up a lot of the nuts and bolts that are holding this frame together. Now what we need to do is go ahead and snip these restraints, these wires that are holding the bike to the frame itself before we totally dismantle this cage. So I've got a pair of scissors, I've got a pair of wire cutters, and here we go. We're going to start over here on this side. You notice this is actually the front tire. And this is, they just position it here so there's no damage on the bike during shipping. So simply snip this little guy off. So here's your front tire, which we're going to assemble in just a little bit. Use the wire cutters to continue just snapping these. And you'll notice that even this wire has a rubber tubing on it that SSR put on there to protect the bike from any damage such as scratching of the paint. So they were thinking ahead here. So we're going to go right around the bike like that. Here you can see this is going to be the front fender. They attached it to the rear wheel so there was no damage to it during shipping. Go ahead and loosen all that up. Keep clipping away. We'll loosen that bike right up from the cage. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to come to PowersportsDistro.com and check out our other videos, or feel free to email us at info@PowersportsDistro.com. And we have other videos we can share with you, or just simply shoot us a question and we'll answer whatever question you may have. However we can help, we'll do it. One by one, go through. Cut them all so it's not holding the bike anymore. What we've noticed by watching a lot of videos online is that there's some assembly videos out there, but the problem is a lot of folks don't know, or maybe just aren't as mechanically inclined and don't know how to do all the nitty-gritty detailed stuff. So that's why we decided to put together this very detailed video for you. Again, it's just a pair of pliers, wire cutters, pair of scissors. That's all we're using at this stage. We're just going right around the bike and cutting all the restraints. Okay, looks like we got them all. Okay, our next step is to work on the front axle so we can work on putting on the front tire. You can see that the cage is now gone. So what we need here is our adjustable wrench and our 14mm socket. Now if we take a look here in the front, you can see fastened right to the metal cage, the axle. We need to keep these parts. We're going to actually use these to bolt on the front tire. So we're gonna need this nut. We're gonna need these spacers, which are two different sizes, and we're gonna need this bolt on this side. So let's go ahead and take them off. Adjustable wrench. Get her on there nice and snug. 14mm socket. On this side, we're going to just back it out. We're going to back that axle right out. We're going to use it when we actually put on the tire. Nothing to it. Very simple. There we go. We already got the bolt, or the nut. Okay, our next step is to work on the front axle so we can work on putting on the front tire. You can see that the cage is now gone. So what we need here is our adjustable wrench and our 14mm socket. Now if we take a look here in the front, you can see fastened right to the metal cage, the axle. We need to keep these parts. We're going to actually use these to bolt on the front tire. So we're gonna need this nut. We're gonna need these spacers, which are two different sizes, and we're gonna need this bolt on this side. So let's go ahead and take them off. Adjustable wrench. Get her on there nice and snug. 14mm socket. On this side, we're going to just back it out. We're going to back that axle right out. We're going to use it when we actually put on the tire. Nothing to it. Very simple. There we go. We already got the bolt, or the nut. Okay, so we're still working on pulling out that bolt, which is in turn your axle for your tire, front tire. Okay. Okay, so I was able to get the bolt out, which is actually the axle. We need this piece. There's two spacers in here, a smaller one and a longer one. We need both of those. And the nut, we're gonna need that too. We need those pieces when we put on the front tire. The next thing we need to do is raise the bike off the ground so we can put on the front tire and the rear shock. So what you can use at home is a 5-gallon bucket, which will work just fine. But what we're gonna use is just a bike stand that we're gonna set it on, just a normal ordinary bike stand. But a 5-gallon bucket will work just fine. So you're gonna see in a moment, we're gonna lift up the bike and we're actually gonna put it underneath the engine so the bike is lifted off the ground so we can work on it. We've raised the bike off the ground now. With the stand, you can use a 5-gallon bucket. It'll work just as good. Just need to get it off the ground so we can put the front tire on. And then also we're gonna have to hook up the rear shock here in a moment. So let's go ahead, let's work on the front tire. You'll notice that the brake caliper has a piece of plastic in it. This is a brake caliper. There's a black piece of plastic in it, and it has a purpose. The reason is during shipping or when you're assembling, you do not want those to clamp together. Those will clamp together if you take out the black piece of plastic and hit the brake. well, they'll freeze together and you don't want that. So you need that open. We've raised the bike off the ground now. With the stand, you can use a 5-gallon bucket. It works just as good. Just need to get it off the ground so we can put the front tire on. And then also we're gonna have to hook up the rear shock here in a moment. So let's go ahead, let's work on the front tire. You'll notice that the brake caliper has a piece of plastic in it. This is a brake caliper. There's a black piece of plastic in it, and it has a purpose. The reason is during shipping or when you're assembling, you do not want those to clamp together. Those will clamp together if you take out the black piece of plastic and hit the brake. Well, they'll freeze together and you don't want that. So you need that open. Okay, so how we're gonna put on the front tire is we need to line up the brake disc with the brake caliper. That's how we know we're putting the tire on right. This disc needs to go into that caliper. On top of that, we've got 2 size spacers that were attached to the axle in the frame when we took it apart. We want the longer size spacer to go on the side with the disc brake. We want the shorter side spacer to go on the opposite side without the disc brake. So we're going to walk through that right now. We've got the longer side going on with the disc brake over here. So we need to line up the disc so it goes inside the caliper. We got the longer side going on with the disc brake over here. So we need to line up the disc so it goes inside the caliper. Okay, the last thing we need to do before we put on the tire is to take this little rubber hose that comes in the handbrake. If there is a little piece of rubber in here, we just want to pull it out before we put on the front tire. So it just slips out and it's just junk. So we're going to end up throwing it out. Okay, you can see that we've got the longer spacer on this side and we put the axle right through. On the other side, we're using the shorter spacer and the axle is right through. Go ahead and wiggle the axle all the way through. The bolt that came with it on the original frame, we're just going to hand tighten it down there for now. See the tires spinning smoothly. Now we got to tighten up this axle and bolt. Okay, what we're going to be using to tighten the front tire is the adjustable wrench. Go ahead and snug that up on the bolt, hold it in place. And then on the other side, we're using a 14mm to tighten her up. 14mm socket. So this side can't spin anymore with the adjustable wrench. Tighten her up with the 14mm. Nice and snug. There we go, we got a rotating tire now. Next, we're going to work on the rear shock. When you take a look at the shock, what you're going to notice is that there's a piece of metal in here. Go ahead and take a look at it. This metal is actually something we're going to throw out. We don't need this piece of metal. So we're gonna undo the bolt and the nut. We're gonna keep the bolt. We're gonna need the bolt, but we're gonna throw out this metal piece. So let's go ahead and take this off. It was just finger tight. So we'll just loosen her up real quick. Nothing to it. Now we're not gonna use this nut, what we just took out, but we are gonna use the bolt. So we'll set the nut aside. We're gonna take out that garbage piece of metal. We don't need it. And here's the shock. Now we're gonna lift up the back tire so that all these holes line up so we can put the bolt through. Okay, so we lift up the back tire, everything's lining up, the bolt goes through. Okay, come over here, you can take a look at, this is where we're going to put the nut on. Now the nut for this bolt came in the brown box, right here, the little brown box. So you find the nut in there and it's going to fit this bolt, specifically made for this bolt. Just hand tighten it right on there. Then you're going to take you got a 14 millimeter socket, adjustable wrench. Throw the adjustable wrench on this side. And we got our 14 millimeter. And we're just going to crank it and tighten it right up. Nothing to it. Again, if you guys ever need some help, feel free to email us at, just come to PowersportsDistro.com, just click on the contact us or email, info@PowersportsDistro.com, just shoot us an email and we'll help you out. Okay, so we got that all snug, everything's tight. We're going to move on to the handlebars, and to do that we're going to need to take some parts out and take a look in this box here. Notice inside this box there's some brackets. These are going to be used to hold on the handlebars, and then also there's some nuts. Now there's also a clear tube in here, but that clear tube is actually for your gas tank. So this is just for the gas cap, a breather tube. We'll get to that in a little bit. So for now we're going to concentrate on the handlebars. Like I said, the brackets and the nuts that we're going to need. So let's get to it. You're probably going to need an extra set of hands when you do the handlebars, just because it's a balancing act. But what we're going to do is line up this bracket with these holes. We're going to put the handlebar in through here, and then we're going to put the top of the bracket over the handlebar. So here we go. Bottom bracket part right here. We're going to lift up the handlebar. And this is kind of where you need some help after we get it up. Like that. And now we're gonna get the top of the bracket. Lined up through the hole. The other bolt, line it up. Put it through the hole. Now, just to help us to keep everything sturdy, we're gonna take two of the nuts, and we're gonna hand tighten them underneath, just to keep things in place. So we're not gonna tighten them a lot. We're just gonna hand tighten them up, keep things in place. Be sure to check out our website, www.PowersportsDistro.com. We've got lots of pit bikes, ATVs, scooters, and we have new stuff coming all the time. So check it out, email us, give us a call, we're around, hit us up. Before we tighten this side down completely, we're going to need to put on the bracket on the other side. Otherwise, the bracket will not fit underneath if we tighten this side all the way down first. So, let's go ahead. You just slide the bracket underneath just like we did on the first side. Put the top on. Run the bolt right through. Both holes, we got the bolt going right through. We're going to start by hand tightening the nuts underneath, just like we did on the other side here. Nothing to it. And we're going to have to pull out the 12mm and the Allen wrench to tighten her up some. And when it gets close to being tight, then we're going to pull the handlebars up and adjust them to where we want them, and then we're going to fasten her really tight. So let's go ahead and tighten it. Get it pretty close to being really tight, but not all the way there yet. So we got the handlebars tightened down. So, next we're gonna fix this gas tank real quick. You notice that there is a seal on it. This is so gas or dirt doesn't get into it during shipping or storage. So just peel that right off. This is just garbage. And the gas cap was in that brown box. And also the breather tube that we talked about earlier. So you're gonna take that tube and we're just gonna put it right on that gas cap. Wiggle it right on. Okay, so it's nice and secure, and then just tighten the gas cap on. That's it. Ready to go there. And now, so we got the handlebars tightened down. So, next we're gonna fix this gas tank real quick. You notice that there is a seal on it. This is so gas or dirt doesn't get into it during shipping or storage. So just peel that right off. This is just garbage. And the gas cap was in that brown box. And also the breather tube that we talked about earlier. So you're gonna take that tube and we're just gonna put it right on that gas cap. Wiggle it right on. Okay, so it's nice and secure. And then just tighten the gas cap on. That's it. Ready to go there. And now, working on the number plate and the front fender. I'm going to show you on the front fender here. You're going to see these. You're going to see these nuts right here. 3 of them. This one, and this one. We have to unscrew these to put the fender on. Okay, we're working on taking out these 3 nuts, 3 bolts. They're 8mm. So let's go ahead and back out the 3 of them. They're all 8mm. We need to take these out to put on that front fender. Loosen them all up. And we've taken out the 3 bolts from underneath. That holds in. It's going to hold in the white plastic fender, the front fender. One thing you need to do before we put on that white fender is put on the number plate. We need to put on this number plate like this. We need to put the number plate on before we put on that fender. So we're going to go ahead and take this little plastic piece off just so we can take this protective film off first. So we're taking off this protective film on the number plate. We're going to need to back this screw out right here. This bolt. It's going to be an 8mm again, but it's just hand tightened right now. So let's loosen it up. We're going to use this to put on the number plate. Basically, we're going to have the bolt, and then there's a little spacer on there, and the spacer is going to go on the back side. We're going to screw it right back in. Get her hand tighten in there before we get the tool. Okay, it's hand tighten now. We'll go ahead and we're going to tighten everything up with the tool here when we get to the end. But that's nice and snug. We need this on there first, like I said, before we put on the fender. Now, we've got the fender that we need to put on. We're going to need those 3 bolts again. Let's go ahead and slide the fender under there. And we're going to match up exactly where those bolts came out of and put it back in. Okay, so exactly where those bolts were taken out, they're getting screwed right back in. You'll see the plastic's holes match right up, so we're good to go there. Hand tighten the 2 in the back. And now this is a part you don't want to forget. This number plate is actually going to tuck underneath. This little tab here is actually going to go underneath, and that front bolt out of the 3 is going to be tightened down with it. So what I mean is, you can see how we tucked it under. Now if you look underneath, there's a 2 in the back, and here's 1 in the front. Okay, so we're going to put that last bolt in, and it's going to match up with this hole in the number plate too. So that's what's going to help keep the number plate on. Let's go ahead and put that last bolt in. And you notice when we put that 3rd bolt in and also put it through the hole in the plastic on the number plate, you now have your number plate so it can't go anywhere. It's on there secure. Of course, we haven't tightened up the bolts yet, but hand tightened them, and you can see it's secure now. So let's go ahead now and secure up those 4 bolts. You got this one, you got the 3 underneath. Again, it's 8mm on this model. So just snug them up. So there's that one. And then you got the 3 down here to snug up. So just to review what we did here now is we unscrewed the 4 bolts, the 3 under here, this one here. We put the number plate on. We folded under this piece of plastic. We put the 3 bolts back on underneath and the 1 here. And just now we unscrewed this cable holder, and we put the brake line through it to hold the brake line when we're riding, and then we just bolted these 2 little screws back on so it's secure when we're riding. So one of the last things that we're going to do is a very easy step is we're going to take off this protective film and sticker. So like on the front fender, you're going to have this just protective sticker to pull off. We're going to do that throughout the bike. So this protective sticker here on the fender. There's a plastic bag on the seat that we just took off, so that's going to come off. Then right here we've got that film, and then this white too. It's the same. It's a protective sticker just to make sure nothing gets scratched during shipping, which SSR is really good about making sure that their quality bikes aren't damaged during shipping. So they're thinking ahead on that. So let's go ahead and take all that film right off. When taking off the plastic on the seat, we just didn't want anyone to get fooled by this, but it's actually, the plastic on the seat is held on with this elastic band, and it's a throwaway band, so it's basically wrapped around the seat like this, and you just need to tug on it slowly and pull it up. So you don't need this for the bike, it's just there for the plastic bag to protect the seat during shipping and storage. Welcome to PowerSports Distro. Today we're going to change the oil in our SSR 125 semi-automatic, which would be the exact same way that you change it in the 125 manual, the 110, the 70. We need to swap out the oil as soon as you get the bike. 10W40 4-stroke. Now I know everyone's excited to ride, but we need to change the oil before we take this bad boy out. Okay, it's very easy to do, but it's very important to do to make your bike last a long time. So basically, to do this, you need to twist off the cap, and this is where the oil is going to go in. This is the oil dipstick, and we're going to be using this after we put oil in to make sure there's enough oil in the bike. But for now, just pull it out and just have it kind of sitting loose. Next, we're going to need a 17mm socket to undo the bolt so the oil can drain under the bike. This is the oil dipstick, and we're going to be using this after we put oil in to make sure there's enough oil in the bike. But for now, just pull it out and just have it kind of sitting loose. Next, we're going to need a 17mm socket to undo the bolt so the oil can drain under the bike. Take the 17mm socket and use it to unscrew the bolt underneath the engine to drain the oil. So again, 17mm socket. There's a bolt right under the engine. We're going to loosen that up, and that's where the oil is going to drain from. You need to change the oil before you ride the bike. As soon as we pull out this bolt, the oil is going to come down. And there she goes. So make sure this is loose. So now, basically, we just wait. It's draining. Let's give it a good 10 minutes and let it drain itself out. Now we've given the bike a good few minutes to drain the oil out. It's time to put the bolt back into the bottom of the engine. Hand tighten it in there. So we hand tighten the bolt, then we go back to our 17mm and we snug it up. Now don't tighten it too tight, just snug it up good. You don't need to strip it though, just snug it up. Now we're going to take out the dipstick. This is where the oil is going to go in. Going to filter. We're going to use 10W40 4-stroke oil, non-synthetic. 10W40 4-stroke oil, non-synthetic. We're just going to start pouring that oil in. So after you put approximately 1 quart in, you're going to want to check the dipstick often. To check the dipstick, you're going to want to screw down the dipstick, pull it back up, unscrew it, pull it back up, and look and see if there's oil touching the bottom of the stick, and you'll see if the engine is full of oil or not. So now we've checked the dipstick, the oil is full, we've changed it. Changing the oil is very important. This is what's going to make your engine last a very long time. There's nothing more important than getting this oil changed often. We need to do it before you start riding the bike. We've gone through all the steps today together of how to assemble the SSR 125 semi-automatic, which is identical to the 125 manual. We've changed the oil, which is important. We just put some gas in it and we're going to start this sucker up. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to visit us at PowersportsDistro.com, shoot us an email or give us a call. Now, let's get it started. Remember, we just put this together and see how easy this bike will start right up. It's a really fun bike. The quality on it is amazing. Please drop by PowersportsDistro.com. We'll give you a hand with anything you need. Have a great day.